Greetings, this is Mark Green from Counseling Services, and I am here to hopefully share a brief webinar with you all, maybe a little training opportunity on supporting students in a remote learning environment. I will give you all a disclaimer first that I did use some possibly funny, possibly offensive memes in my slides, just because I think in this world we need some levity now more than ever. So here we go. All right, so the reality is there is no normalcy, or we're moving to a new normal where many students and professors are taking mostly online learning. So there's going to be several responses to that. I'm thinking about the students and the professors. Some of the responses are going to be, oh, well, I've taken an online class before. This is no big deal. I prefer that environment. It works great. Many of the responses are going to be overwhelmed on both sides of the fence because this is something new. We're not used to it, and it is challenging. And then others are going to be very thrivant. They are going to relish the opportunity not to go to class, at least live and in person. But many students will thrive in this kind of learning environment. So we're going to have people all over the spectrum, which makes managing your classroom probably all the more challenging. So I just want to go through some really quick, useful tips on what you can do to help with the adjustment. So they always taught us in school, especially training for a counselor, to use validation. Validation reduces defensiveness, and it really helps people understand that you're listening to them and you're understanding that their point of view. And so let's validate the non-normalcy of the situation and hope that we will get back to a place where we're doing mostly live in the classroom instruction. So if you can set the precedent by saying, hey, this is trying times for all of us. I know it's difficult for you all. It's difficult for us. I think you set a great precedent for getting mutual understanding and mutual goals. Some things you can do is to encourage students to find a conducive space to do their work, maybe find a space where they can concentrate and focus to the best of their abilities. Again, this is not necessarily your responsibility, but you are helping in the ways that you can. So developing a structure would be both good for both you and the student in helping them figure out, okay, what do I need to do? Do I need to where my normal daytime classes would be? Do I need to do my homework and study? Do I need to figure out what kind of routine do I need to set up in place? And then also with whatever structure that you can provide on your end in your classroom would be an effective tool to help them know that there is some consistency and some expectations. So maybe going over some effective strategies with students would be a great idea to let them know what people have done in the past to do well. Again, maybe you're teaching online classes for the very first time and you're not sure either. And so, but having those conversations and maybe even opening it up for other students to share what has been helpful for you as you navigated an online learning environment could be a great idea. Flexibility for unique challenges. Again, each student is going to present their own unique situation. Challenges, we may have Wi-Fi issues. We may have socioeconomic issues to consider. So I can't tell you what to do or how flexible to be, but I think you are a very intuitive person, professor, and you've you've heard all the stories in the book, and some of them have turned out to be 100% true, and some of them have turned out to be some great fibs. But just recognize that some people may be facing food or housing insecurity due to the lockdown measures, and they may have other mental health challenges going on. So try to be as flexible as you can. I say that with all the while saying, like, it's okay to hold students accountable. They do have syllabi, and you've gone over your expectations. You've made it known what you want and need out of this course. And so sometimes it's okay to be very firm but not give into a certain situation. So it's really up to you. I know when we do a similar presentation to this with the student affairs department, they all say like it is your um, job and responsibility to manage your classroom, and you have autonomy and authority to um, take certain actions in certain situations. All right, so let's address some student academic concerns. Again, be patient. Let them know that this is a possibly a new process for both you and the students. Sometimes they're not going to know how to submit work on Blackboard. Seems strange, I know. Sometimes they're not going to consult with their syllabus, which seems strange, I know. And again, I'm not asking you to excuse that behavior, but if we can communicate in a calm and patient manner, I think that would go a long way in coming to a mutual resolution. Expect technology glitches. I mean, we use WebEx for teletherapy all the time, and sometimes the bandwidth issues present itself. We get these messages on the screen saying, yeah, you're going to need to close about 80 programs because we don't have enough tech space. So make sure you are on good terms with the IT department. I've actually had really great experiences with the IT department, and they've been extremely helpful. But maybe setting that up beforehand to have a liaison for you during a possible time of need. Also, with the submission of homework at midnight deadline, of course, students should not be waiting till 11:52 to submit, but there may be times where things do not go through. And again, I'm just saying it might be a good idea to have a little bit of flexibility with that. So again, students are going to be frustrated. Again, some of their jobs have been lost. Some of their um, they've been taken out of their social environments and forced to wear masks on their faces, which has another psychological impact all on its own. But the world is very frustrating right now. There's not a lot of freedom to do a lot of different things, which has a varying levels of impact on our mental health. And so, it's okay to empathize with them and share if you feel comfortable about your own frustrations, but provide reassurance. Something simple that you might say is, we're all going through this together. This is really hard, and we're going to figure it out. And I'm not going to try to be punitive in my grading, and I'm going to give you a little bit of flexibility, all the while maintaining reasonable expectations. And so, again, I think it's important to be very clear with what you expect and maybe even give them some ideas and some tools on if things do not go well technology wise, what can you do instead? Can you at least email me and let me know that you tried to submit the paper? At least that email is date stamped. Encourage balance. So a lot of our students are working and going to school and trying to have some semblance of a social life. And so a great message that you can send is to try to figure out a game plan on how to do all those things at least reasonably well. Something that would be really helpful too is to promote healthy coping skills. I actually had a send out an email to our Shannon nurse practitioners today who work with us and ask them, could you guys create a PSA on how to boost your immune system? For some reason, during this last 5 months, I've not seen one PSA on building immunity, but I've only seen PSAs on hiding from a virus, and that's a little confusing to me. So similarly, can we encourage students to engage in social activity that is safe and healthy? Can we encourage them to get a good exercise and get those endorphins flowing? Can we encourage students to take some time for themselves to do leisure activities like reading a book or going for a bike ride or practicing some creativity like writing and journaling or painting, doing some photography? Just anything that they can do to keep their mental health in check usually has a good correlation with positive academic performance. All right, so inappropriate classroom behaviors. Again, I'm not there. Student affairs is not there. You have your own standards for your classroom. You have your own boundaries of things that are acceptable and unacceptable. We do not want to impede your ability to make those decisions. And so we say that straight out, realizing that, I mean, there's also a great challenge. I mean, you may have a student from Houston in your class or even another state, and they may be engaging in strange, bizarre, or disruptive behaviors. And so some of the just simple tips to offer are to reach out first. So if you can email the student, or even maybe if you're doing a live webinar lecture, saying I would really like you to stay on after class so we can chat for a minute. Of course, try to respect the privacy, because not many people are going to talk in front of a class or other people if they're listening. But it would be great to extend the offer to have a private session during office hours, or if you have different online office hours, that you can pull someone aside and have a one-on-one. And again, most of the time, students and people are reasonable, and we don't act out because we just want to be an expletive. We usually act out because there are other issues and stressors going on behind the scenes. So again, we do not expect you to be a counselor and and do all the lovey-dovey, ooey gooey stuff. But it's okay to ask how they're doing. Are there any stressors going on in your life? Is there any reason for this change in behavior? Is there any way that I can assist you or help you or connect you to resources? Those would all be great questions for you to ask in a private one-on-one manner. Um, if they're resistant or if they're very open, it's very important to give them direct feedback about their behaviors and say, I've noticed that in class you are snoring and it's actually causing noise on our WebEx meeting if they're not muted. But so you can tell them how it impacts them in their grades. You can tell them how it impacts and is disruptive to the classroom. And you can tell them how it's possibly disrespectful to you. So I think those are all important things. And at least in this situation, you're giving the student a chance to reform and make a different behavioral change, as opposed to just getting an F or a chastising. Another thing, and you guys may have your own academic college guidelines and protocols, but it's always a great idea to consult with your department chair or dean if you have a perpetual problem and a student is consistently engaging in strange, bizarre, disruptive behaviors. Get a game plan in place within your college and see what action steps that you can take. Something that's crucial, and I'll show you a screenshot in a moment, is a Students of Concern report. So if you fill out a Students of Concern report, what that's going to ensure is that someone from Student Affairs is going to follow up on the situation and reach out to the student as well. So you are not alone in the process of making these decisions, and we will also provide support services for these students. So it's a great idea to always report on the situation. Of course, we want you to refer to counseling. We'll talk about how you do that and what that looks like in a minute here. But we are here to support the mental health and emotional needs of the campus community. And so we have several ways to refer to us, but we want to support you as best we can. And if that looks like consulting with us and saying, hey, Mark, I have a situation in my class that's going on. Do you have any insight or ways that I can approach this? And I'll be glad to help, and so will our staff. All right, so really, we do a whole presentation on recognizing students of concern, and there really isn't a lot of difference between an online environment and a in-person environment. One of the biggest things that we need to look out for is behavioral changes. So if a student is always raising their hand in class and engaging and talkative in an appropriate way, and then all of a sudden you can't get a word out of them, maybe they're missing a lot of classes, I mean, that is a huge red flag. It can go either way. If a student is very quiet and all of a sudden they start acting out, of course, that is disruptive, and that is an opportunity for a conversation. So the most important thing is something that is different from what is normal. We'll talk a little bit about the more dangerous ones of those. I found this Brady Bunch one to be somewhat interesting and comical, but that's our world today. So some of the biggest things to be concerned about is withdrawal. And that withdrawal is socially, that withdrawal is from your classes, that withdrawal is from people. And that is a huge sign of depression and possibly suicidal ideation, possibly anxiety, giving up, expressions of hopelessness and worthlessness. Again, this could be posted on a Zoom chat. This could be on a Blackboard Collaborate. Um, if they raise their hand and share within your classes, but those are definitely something that we need to take seriously, and we would definitely need to file a students of concern report on that, as well as reaching out to those students individually. Abrupt mood changes, again, this could be someone who is snappy and volatile. This could be someone who has just gone completely into their shell, or it could be someone who is doing all of those things in a short duration of time. It could be a significant mental health disorder, or it just could be a mild adjustment due to all that's going on in the world. Of course, increased aggressiveness is a possibility. Again, I don't know how that might show up on a Collaborate session, but if you're getting angry emails, if you are getting um, people making inappropriate comments in class, that is something to not only report and have a conversation about, but if possible, or I mean, if necessary, going to the campus police, because we certainly do not want you to feel threatened or put in a bad situation, even if a student is far away. Lastly, talks or posts about harming self or others. We kind of talked about this with hopelessness and worthlessness, but students use a lot of slang, a lot of lingo. And so if you ever see a post or an allusion to I'm out of here. I mean, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm out of this world? Does that mean I'm out of this class? I'm out of this university? Again, I can't make you do anything, nor do what I want to, but I want you to take a situation like that seriously and try to have a conversation with someone to gain clarity on what that means, what that looks like. All right, so I know that was pretty rapid. And again, the challenge is what can you do in the middle of a session? Obviously, if someone in the middle of your session is holding up a knife or a gun or a weapon, I mean, we're going to be calling campus police immediately. They can look up the student. If the student lives a great distance away, then they can work with the local police departments to do wellness checks. If someone's on campus, again, our campus police is great about doing a wellness check here. If someone is just acting out and disruptive, it may be a good time to have a conversation, but also move that forward to a student conduct issue if necessary. You guys do have a lot of options. So let's say the decision is made, hey, I want you to come to counseling. We do have several options available for students this semester and year, and they are the traditional face-to-face counseling. We have walk-in hours every Monday through Friday from 9 to 3. And so sometimes the best way to get a student over there and make sure that they follow up with us is to walk them over there. We're in that building that is right between the new museum and the new chapel. And so please come in. Sometimes the student will actually want you to join that first session because they are still terrified of coming to counseling. And we are open to that as long as the student consents to that situation. And then the other thing we have is teletherapy. So we've opened up teletherapy completely to any student, even if they live local or on campus, just because we want to respect the health and safety concerns that people may have. And so they can call ahead at this number listed on the bottom of the screen, the 942-2371, and schedule a teletherapy appointment. And we will get them set up with a counselor. The great thing about our services is that we can get people in for their first session pretty much immediately every day because we do have the walk-in style system. So the immediacy is fantastic. The challenge that we have is their return visit is anywhere from 5 to 2 weeks, 5 days to 2 weeks. So as I mentioned before, if you go to the main ASU or Angelo website, and if you scroll to the very bottom, that crude circle oval that I drew is where you would click to file incident report. And this is where you can choose the category of behavior that's been going on. And like I said, someone from Student Affairs will reach out to the student and make sure that we send them some lifelines And again, so you're not alone in the situation. One of the biggest tools at your disposal for your students and even for yourself, if needed, is the ASU Crisis Helpline. Student Affairs does have cards for this service if you want some for your department or for your classes. But please, especially the online students who may not even know about this service, it's basically a 24/7 line to a mental health professional who will help de-escalate and talk them through any kind of situation that they're facing. So please feel free to utilize that. Give that card out or that number out as much as possible. A student does not have to worry that that's going to go on their academic record or follow them anywhere. So that might be something important to reiterate to them. We have a couple just other resources. We do all of our events and reach outs on Instagram and YouTube. Just like a training like this, I'll record this and post it on YouTube. So those who may not watch it initially could always go back and watch it. And then Psych Hub is a great resource for students who want to engage in self-help. It's a collection of almost 200 videos on anything from dealing with anxiety to how do I navigate through COVID situations. There's short 3 to 5 minute clips that should hold the attention of almost anyone. On our website too, which is counseling or angelo.edu/counseling, we have a whole bunch of apps listed under our resource page. And so students can download different apps to reduce their anxiety, to get more organized, to have better time management. And most of the apps that we list are free. They can also engage in mindfulness activities and meditation. So that is a great resource option to recommend to them. There's also a bunch of crisis text lines, instant message lines, different free counseling opportunities. So I hope that was at least a little bit helpful. I know it is a unique situation, and I empathize with you all too, especially, going to a mostly remote environment where there is not as much control and anything can happen. But if you ever need any consultation, please feel free to reach out to us at that email address listed on the bottom of the screen or give us a call at 2371. I'll be glad to see what we can do to help. Thank you all and have a great semester.